Okay, so you brought something pretty interesting for us to look at today.
Yeah.
This newsletter
Mm-hmm.
from June of 2000 called
Hi.
"Becoming a Master of Oral Sex."
Okay.
So we are going to dive deep into this and really try to pull out
All right.
the core principles and techniques for effectively pleasuring
Yeah,
a partner orally.
for sure.
And it's not just about the mechanics, it's about
Right.
the mindset and the attentiveness and all that stuff.
It's about the whole experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and what's fascinating to me right off the bat is that
Yeah.
even though this newsletter focuses on specific acts, it really does ground everything
Right.
in the fundamentals of intimacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it suggests that excelling at oral sex isn't so much like a separate skill,
Mm-hmm.
but really flows from just a more comprehensive
I see.
connection and sensitivity to what a partner desires.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning then.
Uh-huh.
This newsletter lays down a pretty firm rule about kissing. It actually says that if your kissing skills are not up to snuff,
Oh, wow.
you might not even get the chance to move on to anything else.
Oh, my goodness.
That's a pretty big statement.
It is, and I think it makes a very crucial point.
Yeah,
Kissing is often the first and most immediate form of physical intimacy.
right.
And so if that initial connection isn't positive,
Yeah,
it can definitely hinder further exploration.
yeah,
It really sets the tone for what follows.
right.
And it can tell your partner a lot about your attentiveness overall.
Okay, so kissing technique 101,
Right.
as the newsletter calls it.
Mhm.
First things first, clean teeth and fresh breath.
Of course.
It seems obvious,
It does.
but the details are interesting here.
All right.
Brushing, flossing, drinking water, being mindful of foods that can affect your breath,
Okay.
like meat, apparently,
Interesting.
and having mints handy but no gum.
Okay. No gum.
And also healthy lips are important too, so chapstick is essential.
Okay. So just really setting the stage for a pleasant experience for both of you.
Right, and these little details,
Yeah.
they show a real consideration for your partner's experience.
Absolutely. And it highlights how seemingly small details can have a significant impact on the overall experience.
Right.
You know, fresh breath,
Yeah.
comfortable lips, they really demonstrate respect and a desire to make the experience pleasant on a very basic sensory level
Right.
for both of you.
Okay, so then we get into like the first kiss,
Mm.
and the newsletter advises treating all kisses like they're the first.
Oh.
So go slow, use gentle pressure
Okay.
with slightly parted lips,
Mm-hmm.
and try focusing on either the top or bottom lip.
I see.
That almost sounds like a very
Yeah.
tender introduction.
I think the emphasis on gentleness and that gradual progression is key here.
Right.
It allows for a deeper connection
Mhm.
and it gives both of you a chance to gauge each other's responses.
Yeah.
That detail about focusing on one lip or the other
Yeah.
suggests a more intimate and less sort of routine approach.
Yeah. To a kiss.
Right. Okay. So then the next step is involving the tongue.
Okay.
Start with just the tip, mirroring your partner's lead.
Okay.
Keep it slow and teasing.
So building anticipation.
Yes. Is that what it's all about?
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that, creating desire is often as much about the anticipation as it is about the act itself.
Yeah.
Introducing the tongue slowly and responsibly
Yeah.
demonstrates attentiveness and avoids sort of overwhelming your partner.
Okay. Now we get to the tongue techniques for more passionate kissing. Bring on the tongue techniques.
The newsletter suggests running your tongues around each other.
Okay.
Kind of a playful follow me game, gently sucking on the tongue or lower lip.
Okay.
Gentle being the key word there.
Gentle.
And this fascinating one, flicking the tip of the tongue.
Interesting.
And the newsletter explicitly draws a parallel to clitoral stimulation.
Oh, wow.
Like it's suggesting that this is hinting at your oral sex skills.
Oh, so a little preview, a little foreshadowing.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
So that specific analogy is quite direct, and I think it clearly communicates intent.
Yeah.
The other techniques, the swirling and the chasing,
Yeah.
they add variety and a sense of playfulness to the kissing,
Right.
making it more engaging and sensual.
Yeah.
And then, of course, gently licking the inside edges of the lips.
Yeah.
That adds another layer of intimacy.
Right.
I think the key takeaway here isn't so much like what to do with your tongue, but the mindset
Right.
of playfulness and responsiveness
Right.
that these techniques encourage.
Okay, so the newsletter makes a very strong case for mastering kissing.
For sure.
Now we're shifting to foreplay,
Okay.
specifically before any oral sex on the genitals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really firm on this. It
Okay.
uses this analogy. Imagine immediately going down on a man after just a kiss.
Mm-hmm.
The newsletter argues that women want to be seduced and teased.
Right.
So it's definitely not about rushing to the
Yeah.
end goal.
I think this is a really critical point, and it addresses a common misconception.
Yeah.
The newsletter really emphasizes that for many, arousal is a gradual process,
Hmm.
and that neglecting foreplay is like skipping the appetizer and expecting the main course to be fully satisfying.
Right.
The mental and emotional buildup is just as important as the physical act itself.
Right. So moving into foreplay step by step.
Yeah.
First, after the mouth-to-mouth magic,
Yeah.
you move to kissing other areas of the face,
Okay.
cheekbones, chin, all over the lips with kissing and sucking,
Mm-hmm.
but only on the lips.
Okay.
Interestingly, the forehead is specifically excluded,
Really?
apparently because it's often associated with non-sexual affection.
Interesting. That's
It's,
culturally interesting.
yeah,
It suggests an awareness of how different areas of the body are coded with different types of intimacy.
right.
And so, focusing on the lips and sort of lower parts of the face helps maintain a more sensual direction.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Next, the newsletter directs our attention to that sensitive area where the jawline, neck, and ear all meet.
Yeah.
Gentle kissing, licking, and sucking are recommended,
Okay.
with a crucial reminder to speak softly near the ear.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a sensitive area.
Yeah.
And the softness of touch and voice
Mm,
really adds a layer of intimacy and vulnerability
right.
and really enhances the sensual experience.
Right.
It shows you're aware of and catering to those erogenous zones, those areas of the body
Right.
with heightened sensitivity that can lead to sexual arousal beyond the sort of more obvious ones.
Okay. Then the slow journey down the neck
Mhm.
using the same gentle techniques.
Okay.
And the newsletter actually suggests asking, does this feel good?
Okay.
But it cautions against asking too often to avoid breaking the flow.
So like finding that balance
Right.
between checking in and maintaining the mood.
Right. It's about finding that balance.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think, open communication is important,
Yeah.
but too many interruptions can disrupt the sensual flow.
Right.
A well-timed question can show attentiveness,
Yeah.
but constant reassurance seeking can feel disruptive.
All right. So now we're moving towards the breasts,
Okay.
following a path that's described as figure 3 in the newsletter,
Oh.
but we can't see the visual.
Right.
But the description is basically like a circular motion around the edge.
Okay.
Starting lightly, then licking and gently sucking,
Mm-hmm.
covering the entire breast, but initially avoiding the nipple,
Okay.
then moving closer with each rotation.
I see. So it's like a slow, sensual exploration of the whole area.
Right. It sounds like a very slow, sensual exploration.
Yeah, I think this gradual approach really builds anticipation,
Right.
and it allows your partner to become more accustomed to the sensations
Yeah.
by circling the breast before focusing on the nipple.
Yeah.
You're teasing and highlighting that the whole breast can be a source of pleasure.
Okay. Now we get to the main event for the breasts.
Right, let's go.
Nipple stimulation. And there's a whole range of techniques here.
Okay, lay it on me.
Starting with the warm breath before any touching.
Okay.
Then the swirling tongue around the areola, getting closer to the tip
Okay.
and varying the speed.
Okay.
The tongue flick back and forth on the erect nipple.
Got it.
The suck, gently taking the nipple into your mouth and kneading the
Mhm.
combined suck and flick.
Mhm.
And the notoriously delicate nipple.
Oh, yeah.
Very gentle with the newsletter, even suggesting practicing on a grape to get the pressure right.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
Then the cool breath, immediately followed by the suck and flick.
oh, wow. A contrast in sensation.
Yes, for a contrast in sensation.
Okay.
The advice is to use these techniques on one breast than the other,
Right.
then back and forth,
Mm.
and even potentially pushing them together to lick simultaneously if anatomy allows.
I see.
And the newsletter recommends a significant 20 to 30 minutes dedicated to the breasts,
Wow.
framing them as a destination, not just a stop on the way.
I love that.
Yeah.
This extended attention to the breasts really reinforces that idea of prioritizing your partner's pleasure
Right.
and thoroughly exploring those erogenous zones.
Right.
And treating the breasts as a destination shifts the focus from a purely goal-oriented approach
Right.
to a more sensual and appreciative one.
Okay, so moving further down,
Okay.
we arrive at the abdomen.
Right.
Slow, gentle kissing, licking, and sucking.
Okay.
Circling the navel, with an optional gentle probe inside if your partner enjoys it. The newsletter suggests spending 5 to 10 minutes in this area
Right.
and specifically warns against tickling.
Oh, so important.
Yeah.
I mean, the abdomen, while perhaps less commonly focused on,
Right.
can be surprisingly sensitive.
Yeah.
For some.
Yeah.
The circular motion around the navel adds a playful element.
Mm-hmm.
And the warning against tickling highlights the importance of being attuned to your partner's sensitivities
Right.
and avoiding anything that could cause discomfort.
Okay, next, the newsletter presents the option of moving to the back,
Okay.
kissing, licking, and sucking around the waist
Mm-hmm.
as you turn your partner over.
Okay.
And then, following a specific pattern, it's referred to as figure 5,
All right.
incorporating light touches, pressure tongue sucking,
Okay.
nibbling, and light bites that end in kisses
Wow.
for at least 10 minutes.
It sounds like a really comprehensive exploration of the
Oh.
back.
Yeah, it does.
So engaging the back really adds another dimension to foreplay,
Right.
hitting areas that might often be overlooked.
Right.
The combination of different sensations from light touches to gentle bites
Yeah.
creates a varied and potentially very arousing experience.
And then the butt gets some attention.
Oh my goodness.
Following another pattern, figure 6, going down one side and back up, and then repeating on the other side.
Okay.
So after this, the newsletter suggests either continuing oral stimulation from behind
Okay.
or having her turn back over.
So a couple options.
Right.
The inclusion of the buttocks in foreplay, I think, acknowledges that sensuality extends beyond, the traditionally focused erogenous zones.
Right.
It's about exploring the entire body and discovering what brings pleasure to your specific partner.
Okay, back to the front we go.
All right.
Starting all the way down at the feet,
Oh, wow.
kissing, licking, and sucking,
Okay.
including toes if desired and hygienic.
Okay.
Then moving up the inner calf, apparently more sensitive than the shin,
Interesting.
and the inner thigh,
Mhm.
all the way up to the edge of the vulva,
Ew.
in a long teasing stroke,
Oh,
and then down the other leg.
I see.
The newsletter explicitly describes this as a major tease.
So this return to the feet and the long teasing strokes up the legs are a powerful way to build anticipation
Right.
by approaching the genitals indirectly and then momentarily retreating, you're heightening desire
Yeah.
and making that eventual focus on the vulva even more intense.
Okay, finally we focus on the area around the vulva.
All right.
Kissing, licking, and sucking to the left and right,
Mm-hmm.
and also licking below on the perineum.
Okay.
That's the area between the vulva and the anus,
Right.
for at least 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
This really sets the stage right before direct genital stimulation.
So this dedicated attention to the areas surrounding the vulva is crucial.
Right.
It allows for acclimatization and builds arousal in the immediate vicinity of the clitoris,
Yeah.
preparing your partner for more direct stimulation.
Okay, now the newsletter addresses a potentially sensitive topic.
Okay.
Optional oral anal stimulation. It acknowledges that some women enjoy this, but issues very serious warnings about hygiene.
Okay, that's important.
The partner's health ensuring they've recently watched and absolutely no transfer of fluids or contact between the anus and the mouth or vagina.
Right.
The newsletter is very clear. Proceed with extreme caution and at your own risk.
Yeah. The inclusion of this topic, along with those explicit hygiene warnings,
Right.
reflects a desire to be comprehensive while also prioritizing safety and respect for boundaries.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that this is a matter of personal preference
Right.
and requires open communication and strict adherence to safety guidelines.
Okay, and finally, we arrive at direct oral stimulation of the vulva and clitoris.
Okay, here we go.
The newsletter directly debunks the porno tongue myth,
Oh, interesting.
emphasizing that using your tongue within a warm mouth offers much better control and sensation.
Okay, yeah, so debunking the porno tongue myth is important because it sets realistic expectations
Oh.
and focuses on techniques that are actually pleasurable for the recipient.
Right. Rather than just, visually dramatic.
Right.
The progression from teasing to direct stimulation acknowledges that clitoral sensitivity can vary greatly. Right. And requires a thoughtful approach.
Okay, and then comes the detailed breakdown of oral vaginal clitoral stimulation techniques.
All right, let's hear them.
We have the warm breath on the external area, only with a very strong warning against blowing into the vagina for health reasons.
Right.
The long teasing lick along the outer and inner labia.
Okay.
Those are those outer and inner folds of skin around the vaginal opening,
Yeah.
all the way up to the clitoral hood.
Mm-hmm.
The ice cream lick,
Okay.
which is a wide lick from the bottom to the top of the vulva with the option of extending to the perineum
Mm-hmm.
and even the anus with just the tip of the tongue first,
Okay.
widening the lick as you move upwards.
I see.
The tongue thrust in and out of the vaginal opening.
Mm-hmm.
The alphabet technique,
Oh, okay.
using your tongue to write letters on the vulva as a form of teasing. That's cute.
The swirling tongue around the clitoris.
Right.
With the option of using your fingers to gently pull back the hood for more direct contact. The tiny movements technique.
Okay.
Very small, slow circles or back and forth movements directly on the clitoris.
Got it.
The tongue flick at varying speeds.
Right.
The suck, gently taking the clitoris into your mouth. The combined suck and flick.
Okay.
And another cool breath, again, external, only followed by the suck and flick with the same strong warning about the vagina.
Right, of course.
So it's quite a comprehensive list of techniques.
It is. The sheer number and variety of these techniques really highlight the nuanced nature of clitoral stimulation.
Right.
It's not just one thing that works.
Right.
Different pressure speeds and types of contact can elicit very different sensations.
Yeah.
And, those warnings about not blowing into the vagina are absolutely critical.
Yes, they must be emphasized.
They must be emphasized.
Okay, and the newsletter concludes with general tips for orally pleasing.
All right, give me those tips.
Continuing stimulation to help achieve multiple orgasms.
Okay.
Allowing for short breaks if needed.
Right.
The high likelihood that your partner will enjoy simultaneous finger stimulation.
Oh, yes.
It actually references a previous deep dive we did on G-spot stimulation.
Yes.
Which is an area of internal sensitivity, paying close attention to your partner's movements and sounds.
Right.
Pushing in might mean they want more, pulling away could indicate sensitivity.
Right.
Or too much direct stimulation too soon.
It's all about those cues.
Really focusing on what they seem to enjoy.
Yes.
Trying direct clitoral stimulation by gently pulling back the hood. And perhaps most importantly, asking for feedback.
Yes, communication is key.
Yeah.
These general tips really bring everything together.
Right.
Emphasizing that crucial role of communication, being responsive to your partner's reaction,
Right.
and ultimately focusing on their individual pleasure.
Yeah.
The mention of simultaneous finger stimulation reminds us that combining different types of stimulation can be particularly effective for many women.
Okay, finally, the newsletter briefly mentions different positions for oral sex.
Okay.
Sitting on your face, facing you, and away between her legs over your shoulders.
Got it.
Her legs bent back to her chest, apparently good for that ice cream lick, and tongue thrusting.
Okay.
Woman on knees with you, from behind which they cheekily call the ass lover's delight.
Right.
For potential combined clitoral G-spot and anal stimulation, and the classic 69.
The inclusion of these different positions really highlights the practical aspects of oral sex.
Right.
And how different angles can facilitate different techniques and access to those erogenous zones.
Right.
It encourages experimentation to find what works best for both partners.
So after this deep dive into a newsletter from way back in 2000, it's clear that truly skillful oral pleasure is much more than just a few simple moves.
Right.
It's a really comprehensive art. That involves attentiveness, mastering these various techniques, a genuine willingness to explore, and above all, a deep focus on your partner's unique desires and responses.
Absolutely.
It's definitely a continuous journey of discovery.
Yes.
Wouldn't you agree?
I couldn't agree more.
Something that goes far beyond just the mechanics.
Absolutely. What this exploration really reveals is that truly skilled oral pleasure is an act of profound connection and communication.
Yeah.
It's about understanding not just the physical techniques that we outlined here,
Right.
but also the emotional and sensual landscape of your partner.
Right.
And this raises an important question for you, the listener, reflecting on these detailed techniques and the emphasis on attentiveness. Which aspects resonate most with you?
Right.
And how might you thoughtfully incorporate them into your own intimate experiences?
Very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Until next time.